Hello and good morning and welcome on this beautiful sunshiny day. Everything's blossoming out there and Councillor McFarlane's been singing. We've been serenaded this morning, just beautiful. Can I ask Tracy for any apologies? And oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead here. First of all, can I welcome everybody to it's Wednesday, the 15th of May, 2024. Welcome to the Stewatry Area Committee meeting. Let you know that this meeting will be live streamed. And members may notice that when been asked to speak, I refer to them formally using their title, Councillor Smith, so that it's clear who are councillors in the process of elimination of officers. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guide, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. Item 1, Tracy, Sedgwick apologies and Chair's approval of members, remote participation, and which members in the room and those linked by Microsoft Teams, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We've got 9 members present in total, 5 members present in person here at the Council Chambers, Kirkcudbright, and that's being the Chair, Councillor Kim Lowe, Councillor Andy McFarlane, Councillor Davy Stitt, and Val Walker, our local member for Dean Glen Kens from the Youth Council. And we've got 4 members present on Microsoft Teams, being Councillor Blake, Councillor Dougie Campbell, Councillor Ian Howie, and Councillor John Young. And I've got one apology from the Vice Chair, Councillor Drysdale. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? Statement of connection. For transparency reasons, members may wish to make a public statement. Declaration of interest, members should now require to leave the meeting for that item. Okay. Item 3, minutes of previous meeting dated 20th of March 2024. Members are asked to approve these minutes as an accurate record. Members happy to approve?
Happy to approve.
Thank you. Councillor Stitty, and approved. Thank you. Item 4, 1st of April 23 to the 31st of March 24, 6-month assessment from 1st of April to 30th of September 23 of Education and Learning Quality and Curriculum Service Plan 23 to 24, report by Executive Director, Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing. Our first report, 6-month performance report from Education and Learning Service for Quality and Curriculum Service Planning, covering 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023. This is largely a positive report with numbers moving in the right direction. I'm sure members will be pleased to see that attendance has increased since the same period last year and that stewardship exclusion rates per 1,000 pupils is 0.739, which is sitting better than the target measure of 0.795. It is also good to see the positive care inspectorate report for Kirkcudbright Primary School and read the encouraging comments about staff, pupils, and the quality of teaching and learning. However, I note that Stewatry school exclusions rates for looked after children are not on target. Members here are very interested in achievement and attainment for young people, and I'll open the floor for members' questions and comments, and would like to welcome Karen Bryden and Julian Brideson, who are available online to answer any questions from members. The floor is now open. Councillor Kimlow.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Chair. It's just that mention of the exclusion rates for looked after children. So page 20, the very final line, I'm just wondering, it just seems to be one extreme to the other. Now, as you will know, Abbey Ward sits across the Stewatry and Nithsdale, so you look at comparative figures, and they're all around about normally the same across Dumfries and Galloway. And yet we've got, for 2022 to 23, we've got a 0. And then for 23-24, it's 95, where the target is 55. That 95 is very high. Is that an accurate figure, that 0? Because I wouldn't imagine there would be no exclusions whatsoever in any group of pupils. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I welcome that question. Yes, that first figure of 0 was accurate, and you'll see this year that the rate is 95.24 per thousand, which does look like a very significant increase. However, exclusion rates are calculated based on the number of pupils, and then it's scaled up how that would reflect to 1,000 pupils. So during this reporting period, we had 21 pupils who were currently looked after in the Stewatry. And of those 21 pupils, there were 2 instances of exclusion. So 2 looked after pupils that were excluded for a short period of time. But that when that was scaled up to give us a figure of a rate per 1,000, that's where the large number of 95.24 comes from. But the reality of the real numbers perhaps behind that is that 2 pupils were excluded in that 6-month period.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation, because it does make a lot more sense now. Thank you. The question I'm going to ask is actually about something that's not in the paper, unfortunately. Attended Gatehouse Community Council last night, and there's big issues, as you'll be aware, in relation to the school fabric, which raises concerns in relation to the condition of our buildings and the educational establishment. And what I'd like to know is, do we have information of dates, past and present, past and future, where we are going to be inspecting them? How often does that happen? Is there a schedule of works for repairs and maintenance, and how do we ensure that we have a safe environment for our children and our teachers? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Would you like to
McFarlane.
respond, Julian?
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor McFarlane. We are concerned always when parent councils and communities raise concerns around the buildings in which learning and teaching is contained. From an education perspective, we are the client in these council buildings, and we work closely with property estates and programmes in ensuring the safety of our buildings, and I am absolutely assured by colleagues and by the external consultants that have been commissioned for this work that the school is safe. The schedule of works and the repairs and maintenance for all of our schools are reported by Property Estates and Education and Learning Committee, and I'm happy to provide a more detailed briefing through our colleagues in Property Estates and Programmes to elected members, because I'm very aware that that briefing is outstanding, and I commit to get that to you as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gillian. I noted that you picked up in relation to Gatehouse specifically, but clearly in the past I've attended at Kirkcudbright Academy, where there's been a leak that the head teacher said had been there for a number of years. I know that colleagues have constantly complained about the condition of Castle Douglas High School as well. So it's about that general maintenance of the buildings and such like, beyond
Yes.
this particular issue, which is obviously a
Yes.
special case. Thanks.
If I may come back, Chair, I think it is a symptom of a large and ageing school estate, and we are aware of the pressures on the capital budget. And members will also receive at Education and Learning Committee, they will receive papers on an overview of our school estate and decisions that members may wish to take in the medium and long term regarding ensuring that our school estate is fit for purpose to meet the needs of our communities. But we have a lot. Many of them are half empty, and we do need to look at how we manage that school estate within the existing capital programme. But I realise how challenging that is for our property colleagues, but also for our school communities who are the lead tenants in those buildings. Thank you.
This is a priority and part of the open and transparent conversations that we're having with parents and parents' councils. We as councillors have these points raised, and then it's understanding how the council can respond to ensure obviously health and safety is critical, and that's been covered. Moving on to the next hand up, Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Gillian. It's probably more a national issue, but just how it impacts here, and it's the levels of violence and assaults on teaching staff by pupils, which is obviously a concern to yourself and us as councillors, that teachers feel adequately protected in the working environment. Is there any issues around here which would indicate that it's an escalating problem, or is it something which we're managed to keep on top of?
Thank you for the question. If I may, I'll respond on an authority-wide level, if I may, and obviously, right, this is a national issue. It is the issue of focus for our non-teaching trade unions for the year. This is the priority area for Unison Unite over the course of the next year. And I am reassured by the joint work of our local negotiating committee for teachers. Our LNCT will meet next week. There has been a programme of work to bring forward advice, guidance and support for staff who are at the sharp end of some of the behaviour issues in our schools, and we are working closely with our trade unions to develop shared communication process to get this information out to schools. It was publicised at the end of last session, but some staff don't feel that they had seen it. So we are working together to make sure that all staff have copies in every school as to techniques, support, advice and processes to follow should they have concerns around incidents of violence in schools. Our schools should be safe places to learn, but also to work. And it's really important that we work together to support young people in how they demonstrate the behaviour that they are communicating to us through that behaviour. Thank you.
Councillor
would it be
Howie,
fair to say,
any response? Are you happy with that?
Yes, I'm perfectly happy with it. But Gillian, is there almost a zero tolerance of violence towards staff in schools? Those that carry that action out will know that there will be repercussions to protect staff.
Yes. You know that. Karen, you work.
I'll just come in. I've been part of that working group. So as part of the documentation and guidance that's going to all school staff, in there is a flow chart for managers as well as for staff members that outline the procedures that will take place to support staff members when they find themselves in these instances where they are perhaps, as Gillian referred, on the receiving end of the behaviours that our young people are displaying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Gillian. I suppose I'm reminiscing a wee bit here. On page 20, we're getting the percentage of pupils gaining 5+ awards at level 6 in the Stewatry. Now, I suppose in my limited time as a teacher, I remember being taken into the headmaster's office and said, your maths results are not as good as Kirkcudbright's, here you are, you'll need to pull your socks up. we don't seem to get the detailed information of subjects and how well schools are performing in subject areas anymore. Or am I wrong and just not able to find that? I mean, I would like to know how effective each of the Stewatry schools are in gaining university entrance qualifications, etc., for its school leavers. And I'm not sure if these figures tell me that, but I look forward to your thoughts, Gillian.
Thank you, Councillor Young, and I've certainly I know this is an area of great debate in that we have so much data. Our schools are data rich. Our inspections tell us that we're data rich, and there is a great deal of quality assurance in our secondary schools, as you will recall, being required to report on your faculty performance, I think is part and parcel of the annual review cycle. It's what we publish that I think is in question here. So yes, we have this information. Head teachers are furnished with this information. We have a raft of comparator schools. So I'm going to hand on specifically to Karen in terms of what happens in schools. I think the question you're really asking is how much of this should be made public, and how much we are comfortable with. I'm clearly comfortable discussing this school by school with members, whether or not we want to drill down to the individual department or faculty level on performance, because I think that starts to begin to demonstrate individual pupils. We start to actually look at individual pupils in some of these smaller faculties. However, I'll hand over to Karen.
Thank you, Gillian. Yes, Councillor Young, as part of the work of the Quality and Curriculum team this year, we have been working with our schools, both primary and secondary, to reach a level of understanding for school data that is shared from school to school. And one of the things that we have agreement with is that the data on attainment at all levels is shared across our schools. So there is that professional challenge, not just coming from the quality improvement officers, but head teachers are then able to sort of turn the lens on themselves and each other to share practice where, you know, there perhaps is a very successful maths department, for example, in one secondary school. That opens up the conversation for a head teacher to say, you know, I see you're doing exceptionally well. Can we talk about the steps that you're taking with your learners and young people to achieve these results?
In terms of, if I can respond, because I think that is very much an internal matter and we are on it. Mm-hmm. On members' request, we are now going to publish school by school attendance. That was agreed with our head teachers last week, and that it would generally felt helpful that school by school attendance will now be a matter of record to elected members, and we can certainly go back to for our forthcoming business plan what level of attainment information you would be looking for. I think a lot of this information is already available, and we can remind members, I need to remind myself exactly what is available publicly through Scottish Government on the school by school statistics, because there's a lot of information also available for parents. But we will commit to provide a briefing for members on that, and we can consider more detailed performance information at the forthcoming service plans.
Thank you. Councillor Young, satisfied with those answers?
Yes, I'm satisfied, and I look forward to seeing some of these figures. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the questions? In that case, we'll move to recommendation. Members are asked to 1. Review the 6-month summary of performance for the Stewatry area for 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraph 4.3 and Appendix 1. Point 2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report. Paragraphs 4.4.1 to 4.4.4 and 3. Consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree.
Thank you. Thank you, members.
Gillian, Karen, thank you for joining us. Bye-bye. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Social Work Services Directorate's 6-month assessment of business plans for 2023 to 2024 performance. April 1st to the 30th of September 23. Report by Service Director Social Work Services. We now turn to item 5, the Social Work Services 6-month assessment of business plans for 2023 to 2024 performance. This report covers performance from the 1st of April 23 to the 30th of September 2023. This report covers services and projects that are vital to helping some of our most vulnerable people. Again, members will be pleased to see area-based narrative, and it's good to see the feedback received on the outcomes for local communities from the unpaid work scheme. I know members have asked previously about this work taking place in the Stewatry. We have with us Janet Drennan, available online to answer any questions from members. I'll now open the floor to members for questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor Still.
Thanks, Chair. It's good to see that community payback's paying its rewards when you see 4.26. I've always been kind of critical of this, but when you see a glowing report that they're carrying out their duty after getting community payback, it's good to see that the report for Carnlough House was very favourable for them.
Janet, any comment you would like to make?
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback on the feedback. We were all certainly very pleased to be able to include that in this month's report.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Janet, for joining us this morning. Got a couple of questions. 4.2.1, you talk about having to use bank staff in order to achieve your target of managing part of the justice services. Firstly, I'd like to understand what's the cost implications of that, and is there an alternative? 4.2.2 talks about a KPI target of 90%, but it doesn't actually give us any performance indication of how we are doing against that. It does say it's challenging. And then 4.2.3 refers to Shine, but doesn't actually explain what that is. I wonder if you could help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor McFarlane. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm from Children and Family Social Work, so I don't have a full understanding of the information that's included in the justice aspects of this month's report. But what I can do is go back to relevant parties in justice and get that information to you for your next meeting.
Councillor McFarlane. Okay, satisfied with that. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, sorry, Janet, you may not be able to answer this one either, but it does seem a little bit light in content. And again, it's for the Stewatry area, so it'd be really good if we could get some detailed information about what's happening in this area, so that we can understand, you know, the issues that you might have in relation to staffing and in relation to actual challenges that you might have in relation to children, young peoples and such like. So if you could take that back and have a word, that'd be very helpful. Thanks.
Janet?
Absolutely. I'll take on board your comments and I'll feed that back, and hopefully we'll have some more details to be included for the next report.
Thank you. There are no further comments. We'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1, review the overall summary of performance within the Chief Social Work Officer's business plan in the Stewatry area. 2, consider the additional area-based successes and developments as detailed in the key successes section of this report, paragraphs 4.2 and 4.3. And 3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant future committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? And thank you, Janet, for joining this morning.
Thank you.
Item 6. Stewatry Area Committee Discretionary Budget for 2024-25. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. The next report is the Stewatry Area Committee Discretionary Budget Report. This report is asking us to note the funding available and to agree the key priorities, process and allocation for 2024-25. I'll first ask members to note the total budget allocated to area committees across the region as 312,000 and the amount available for stewardship being £48,048, plus the carryover of £3,138.52 from the 23-24 budget, resulting in a figure of £54,186.52 available for allocation in the year 24 to 25. Are members happy to note that amount? Members will note also that a members' seminar was held on this matter on the 27th of March 2024, where proposed priority areas were identified. This year's priority areas are presented for members' consideration in Appendix 2. Ward Officer Sean O'Toole is online to answer questions. Sean, do you have anything to add before I open the floor for members' comments? And good morning.
Nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you.
I'll now open the floor to members for questions and comments. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Sean. This probably is just a bit silly of me, but anyway, I'll ask. On page 35, under the youth priority area, you're awarding, no, the committee decided to award 3 tranches of £2,000, but in the total budget available, that comes to 8,000. So is there a correction there, or am I just misreading it, Sean?
Through yourself, Chair. No, you're quite right, Councillor. So it does amount to 6 for the 3 wards at £2,000 each per allocation. So that would leave the £2,000 over. So I've added in there that the remaining funds will be allocated to at the discretion of members. So, you know, depending on whatever is over, it could be 2,000, but it could be more depending on what's allocated, you know, through applications for each of the wards there. So it's kind of open, but yeah, you're quite right that it's only adds to 6 for the 3 wards. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that point. Are there any other comments or questions from members? We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1. Note that 312,000 was allocated in the council budget for area committee discretionary budgets in the 2024-25 period. 2. Note that total available stewardship area committee discretionary budget for allocating in 2024-25 will be £54,186.52, as detailed in paragraphs 4.3 to 4.4. And 3. Agree to allocate funding for the key priorities in Appendix 2 and open for applications and the process by which to deliver them. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Okay. Thank you, Sean, for your participation. Sean's still there? He's still with us? Okay, for item 7. That's good. Okay, moving on to Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Budget for 2024-25, report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report is our Tackling Poverty and Inequalities Budget for 24-25. Members will be aware through monitoring reports of the significant impact of these budgets allocations to our communities. Again, I'll ask members first to agree to note the budget allocation available, in this case, £23,418. Are members happy to note before we move to further discussion? Thank you. We are then asked to agree the priorities, eligibility and criteria as detailed in the appendix. Again, Sean O'Toole is available to answer any questions from members. I'll open the floor to members' questions and comments on the priorities, eligibility and criteria, and then ask Sean to talk further about the proposed timelines for member consideration. I'll open the floor to members for questions and comments. Any questions or comments? No? In that case, there's no comments or questions. We'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1. Note the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget for 2024-25 in Stewatry is £23,418 as outlined in paragraphs 4.2 and 4.3. 2. Agree the priorities, eligibility and criteria for the Stewatry Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget for 2024-25 as detailed in the appendix. And 3, agree to offer of grant to identify delivery partners and open a grant scheme for applications to the Stewatry Area Committee Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget 2024-25, including the timetable and processes outlined in paragraphs 4.5 to 4.6. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Item 8. St John's Town of Dalry Community Properties Trust. Community Assets Transfer, Multi-Use Games Area. The Mugger. Kirtland Street. St John's Town of Dalry, Castle Douglas. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report is a community asset transfer request from Dalry Community Properties Trust for the transfer by way of ownership of the multi-use games area, the Mugger, Kirtland Street, St John's Town of Dalry. The report presents the community business plan from the organisation along with the officer's social value assessment and best value evaluation. Members will recall that for this report, this area committee has delegation to make recommendations to our finance, procurement and transformation committee for their decision. Ward Officer Scott Meekin is here to answer questions if there is anything you want to add to the report, Scott.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. Nothing to add to the report. Happy to move to questions.
Thank you. Any questions from members? Councillor McFarlane.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Scott, for coming along today. At 4.3.4, it says the Mugger facility is currently in a derelict condition. Could you perhaps expand on that, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Councillor McFarlane. So the Mugger surface is a sand-based surface, and it does require regular maintenance, but that maintenance hasn't been applied to the surface in quite a long time, and it's not been used, I think, since around 2015. So at the moment, it's not in a usable condition. It's certainly, I would call it derelict, and this process that we're asked to look at today will hopefully recover it into a usable state.
Satisfied?
Yeah, thank you for that. Also, there's a valuation of £100,000, which we're saying that because of the condition that is in, is been reduced to £50,000. Who's made that that valuation, and has there been any investment by the community group up to this point, as we've seen in similar circumstances previously?
Scott?
Yeah, thanks again for the question, Councillor McFarlane. So there's been no investment from the community group as yet, because they're not responsible for the surface. And you're right to raise the question about the valuation. So members will be aware that the council, certainly at the time of writing the report, the council doesn't have a valuer. So what we've done is engaged with colleagues in property and estates to get a valuation from comparable sites, which for comparable sites in good conditions came out at £100,000. But given its current condition, we as officers took a view that we would have to reduce the valuation for Dalry. Hence you can see in the report the decisions that we made around that. So it hasn't been valued by I guess a chartered valuer, because we don't have one on the books, but we're fairly confident in the valuation that we've included in the report.
Would you like to reply, Councillor McFarlane?
No, thanks for that. I mean, obviously it would be better if we could get a proper valuation, but in the circumstance, I don't think that's necessary in this case. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Howie?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just happy to propose that we opt for option 1 as per the recommendations.
Please.
In regards to it being transferred over to the properties, will it still be accessible to schools to use the MAGA, or is that going to change after the point that it's transferred over?
Scott, if you could answer that question.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for the question. I'm delighted to say that yes, it will still be able to be used, and the engagement between the community group and the school has been very good up until this point. So we've already agreed a set number of hours per week that when the MUGA is returned to a usable state, that the school will get free access. And I'm confident that will be flexible enough that any school access that's required once this MUGA is returned to a usable state will be accommodated.
Satisfied with that answer? Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, I'd like to make a counter proposal to Councillor Howie's proposal that we go with option 1. I prefer option 2, purely on the grounds that we have had circumstances previously where community asset transfers have taken place, and there's been local concern in relation to future ownership or future development of sites. I think in light of the comment that's just been made about access to the school as well, I think we'd probably like to sort of put some conditions on that perhaps the school should be able to retain access to it, and that any future development of this site, should a profit be made, that there would be a return to the council. Thanks.
Councillor Lowe.
I'm happy to second Councillor McFarlane's motion for option 2.
Councillor Still.
Just a wee query. Regardless of options 1 or option 2, will the property still be returned to the council, or is it just under option 2 it will be returned to the council, or under both options will it still be returned to the council?
So hopefully I can answer that question. Under option 1, it would be transferred by way of ownership with no conditions, which would not necessarily mean it would return to the council if something was to happen to the community group. Option 2, with conditions, would allow members to decide to include a clawback condition. We as officers did discuss this, but we felt it was ultimately required to be a member's decision whether you wanted to include a clawback condition or not. So it's a decision for members to make.
Okay, thank you. Can I just check with Tracy on some guidance with regards to the process around option 1, option 2?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. If I could perhaps just check with the officer. We do quite often put a clawback in that if there's any sale or profit made, it comes back to the council, but I'm not sure before we've attached a condition about ensuring that the school maintain use of that facility, and I'm not sure from Appendix 4, Scott, if you could help if there's a condition that covers that. Like I say, I haven't attached that as a previous condition to a community asset transfer. If you can provide any help on that, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. We have engaged with legal services on this in terms of discussions with the school and with the community group, and we took a precedent from a similar situation at Closeburn with the field at Closeburn. So we've agreed a form of legal wording that could go into any agreement that would just cover all parties in terms of free access to the school. So I'm happy to share that with you. It's actually included in the business plan, but I can share that with you outside, and that's been agreed with our own legal services.
Okay, thanks for that. So we've got a proposal from Councillor Howie for option 1, but currently don't have a seconder for that, and that's with no conditions attached. And then we've got a proposal from Councillor McFarlane, seconded by Councillor Rowe, for option 2, and that's to attach 2 conditions, one for the legal wording that Scott's mentioned to be included about the school retaining the use of the facility, and also a clawback that for any profit made or any future use, if the facility is not being used, would come back to the council. I'm not sure if there's a seconder for Councillor Howie.
Yeah, Councillor Young.
Thank you. Before I second Councillor Howie, can I ask a brief question? So if the St John's Town of Dalry Community Properties Trust fails, then this property will revert back to Dumfries and Galloway Council. Is that the case?
Scott, could you answer that question?
Yeah, so if we do go for option 2 with the clawback, then yes, that would be the case.
Sorry, and if we go for option 1?
I'm not entirely sure that it would be an automatic return to the council on option 1. I don't know if Ingrid would have the same view, but my view would be it would depend on the dissolution clause within the property trust's constitution as to where their assets would go if they were to dissolve.
Thank you, Scott. I find it difficult to make a decision on this. I feel I don't have enough scope of possible outcomes if something goes wrong, and we know things go wrong quite often in Dumfries and Galloway. So, but thanks for that. So with option 1, we don't know what would happen if the Properties Trust fails, but with option 2, if it fails, then it goes back to Dumfries and Galloway Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just check with Ingrid? Are you going to make a comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was just to confirm that what Scott had said there around the dissolution clause for that particular organisation would determine what would happen with that if option 1 was to be chosen. And option 2, in terms of the clawback, there could be some conditions attached to secure the asset for the future in terms of coming back to the council should anything go wrong. Hope that's helpful for members.
Thank you, Ingrid. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, the reason that I put forward my proposal is that there is a concern about what does happen if the trust fails or if they take a decision to sell off the asset. So I have a concern around that. Equally, there's an issue around Dalry School at the moment and anything that perhaps undermines that would be detrimental to that area, I believe. So hence the reason that I put forward option 2. I think in Scott's response to Councillor Young, it's pretty much we don't know what will happen if we don't put conditions on, whereas with option 2, clearly we're stating what we would like to happen and we'll put legal safeguards around that. So I'm not sure if Councillor Young did actually second Councillor Howie's proposal or not. So if we could clarify that, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
Okay, if we could just hold for a moment. Councillor Campbell has a point.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I tend to support Councillor McFarlane's proposal in relation to option 2. I think in the absence of having a crystal ball and knowing why the project might not or it might fail at some future point, I think the benefit that could be derived through this asset transfer for other schools is a strong benefit to the local community. And ultimately, if the Development Trust weren't able to continue, we would have the option of perhaps through Dalry Secondary / Primary continuing to make that asset available to the wider community. So I think on that basis, option 2 would be my preferred option with the clawback. But I suppose we've got to be mindful as well that ultimately the Finance Procurement Committee will have a say on the decision or recommendation that we make today. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Can I just check with Councillor Young? The second option, is that supported, or sort of Tracy, would you like to clarify any further procedure that we need to follow?
Thanks, Chair. I didn't have noted that Councillor Young seconded any proposal so far, so at the moment it still stands that Councillor Howie doesn't have any seconder to go with option 1, so it looks like option 2 is on the table with the 2 clawbacks.
Are members agreed to approve option 2? Great, thank you everybody. We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to 1. Consider St John's Town of Dalry Community Properties Trust transfer request as laid out in the Stage 2 Asset Transfer Application, Appendix 1, and Community Business Plan, Appendix 2. 2. Consider the outcome of officer assessment of the request in relation to the Council's requirement to meet best value, as detailed in paragraph 4.5.3, and the officer recommendation at paragraph 4.9. 3. Note the outcome of the social value assessment of the proposed transfer as detailed at paragraph 4.6.2. And 4. Agree an option from those listed at paragraph 4.10 to be recommended to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee. And can I check, are members happy to agree the recommendations? Moving on to item 9. Oh, first of all, Scott, thank you for your participation this morning. Point 9, any other business deemed urgent by the chairman due to the need for a decision? I have no further business, so that concludes the meeting. Could I thank you all for your contributions? Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2024. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Chair.